Good morning and Merry Christmas. I absolutely love this gospel reading. In case you're curious, it's from the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew, and it's in two parts, though it's not always clear when we read it. It's in the second chapter, and it's verses 13 through 15, and then verses 19 through 23. So we skip a little bit. But I love this because this may be hard to hear for you. In the Gospel of Matthew, we are reminded that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were political refugees. They were asylum seekers. Why do I call them political refugees? Well, Herod was trying to kill the baby Jesus, the infant Jesus, because he thought, Herod, the king, thought that Jesus was going to replace him as king. And if that ain't political, I don't know what is. But I think it's really important to remember that according to this story, Egypt granted them asylum. Now, did that political process look today like it looked then? No, of course not. This was 2,000 years ago. But they were political refugees. They fled the country of their home because they were being persecuted and could not remain lest they die. And you know, I tend to think that ought to soften our stance on political refugees. I tend to think that Jesus himself, being an asylum seeker, really, it was his parents who sought asylum on behalf of him because he was a newborn. But I tend to think that given it is part of the acknowledged history of the historical Jesus, that he and his parents sought political asylum and refuge in another country, that whomever we are as Christians, whether we consider ourselves liberal or progressive or fundamentalist or conservative, or any other way we tend to describe ourselves, I tend to think that we cannot take the Bible literally or importantly if we forget that Jesus once sought asylum, that Jesus once sought refuge in a nearby country and received it. What if Jesus was separated at the border from his parents, as is happening in the US right now? You know, later, when Jesus is an adult and is teaching in various Gospels, later he says something confounding. Well, he often says something confounding. But later he says, that when we give the smallest kindness to the least of the people that we encounter in this world, so much as a cup of water, because we are Christians, because we follow Jesus, because we try to love our neighbors as ourselves, if we so much as give a cup of water because of this, much less food or shelter or clothing or comfort or solace, we have given it to him. Because when we love our neighbor, we love God. And so I tend to think that when we separate children at the border, we are not just separating children at the border. It is as if we are separating the Christ child from the Madonna every single time. Is that a hard political statement? I'd go with a political commentary, or perhaps a theological reflection. A hard Christmas message? Well, not everything Jesus said was easy. And not everything he did was easy. Amen.